Welcome to the Lifestyle, Environment, Heritage and Resilience Committee for today, Thursday the 5th of September. Whenever we kick off this meeting, we acknowledge and pay respects to the traditional Aboriginal people of the land on which we gather, and we acknowledge all their descendants. We also acknowledge the many Aboriginal people from other regions as well, as Torres Strait Islander and South Sea Islander people who now live in the local area and have made an important contribution to the community. And with that complete, we will move on to attendance and apologies. I have some notes from Councillor Marshall and Councillor Castro, who will join us momentarily. They have been caught up with other commitments in their divisions, and they'll be with us soon. We don't have any leaves of absence to deal with today. We do have the confirmation of the minutes. Would someone like to move the... Oh, Councillor Wilkinson and Councillor Martin. All those in favour? Thank you. To confirm the minutes. Is there any conflict of interest declarations that need to be made today? That's great. Excellent. The next item on the agenda is a series of start items, and one of the start items is the forward planning schedule. I've got a slight change to that, so at the moment we're just going to unstar all of the items because each of them have been requested in different ways. There might be one that we end up starring, but the forward planning schedule just has a slight change in that the one will be what it is. That's it there, yeah. And two will be just that it be noted that the Lifestyle, Environment, Heritage and Resilience Committee scheduled for the 10th of October will be rescheduled to the 17th of October. It's been approved by the CEO. We still have to go through a public notification process, but in the case of the forward planning schedule, that has been signed off. Because I'll be away on the 10th, and I asked for approval from the chair, from the deputy chair and the CEO, and we moved it 1 week, which enabled us to continue to hold the meeting.
You didn't want your deputy to do it?
No, Nick and I spoke, and he and I both preferred that it was moved.
Who's your deputy?
Nick Marshall, Councillor Marshall.
Okay, and he's, okay, fine.
Yeah. There's still a public notification period that needs to happen for that, but or a public notice that needs to go out, but just out of courtesy to everyone, that meeting has been signed off and changed. I'll move it. Kind of a seconder. Thank you, Councillor Wilkinson. All those in favour? Thank you. That motion is carried. All right. So we have our reports and presentations. The first item on the agenda is the response to a petition in relation to proposed changes of a transformer location for Currumbin Vikings. Councillor O'Neill alerted me to this matter, and I wonder if anyone would like a short presentation about the petition, or whether Councillor O'Neill would just like to speak to it.
Yeah, I just thought I'd come along today. I'm not on this committee, but this petition was really quite important to the residents in and around Pacific Parade and Marabra Street. The Vikings Club initially thought that they would require a transformer for their application to rebuild the Nippers Club, and we were looking for a place to actually put the transformer rather than have it on their site. It's actually a council site anyway, but we wanted to make sure that if there was a transformer in the area, it could be used for other developments along Pacific Parade. The only place that Energex would approve a transformer to go was actually on a medium strip in Marabra Street. This medium strip actually acts more like a park. It does have seating. It does have a huge 100-year-old Norfolk pine, which is currently being looked at for heritage listing, and certainly acts like a park to the nearby residents. That's why the petition came forward. We did look at other areas. I personally did not want it there. We did look at other areas, but Energex wouldn't come to the party. And since then, as you can read in the report, the Nippers Club was actually descaled a little bit in their build, and they don't need the transformer, so there's no need for a transformer to go anywhere at the moment. But it does actually raise the question in the future of where a transformer could go in that area if it's needed in the future. But at the moment, I'm very happy that we don't need to put it in that what I call a little park area.
Great, thanks for the update. Mr. Ansell and Ms. Pocock, do you mind just coming up to the front? Is that all right? hovering around at the back there. See? If you just grab a seat, that'd be excellent. Councillor Hamel, you have a question?
Chair, not so much a question about the actual content of the report, but more a comment on what I think is missing in the report is I got the chance to get that bit of context from Councillor O'Neill before the meeting, but if I just would have read the response to petition, I'd have no idea where was this sub-pad mount actually proposed. Like, I think a couple aerial images indicating where it was proposed and where areas it could have gone. Like, there's no context to what the actual petition was about, which was a placement of a pad-mounted box, and I have no idea where it was actually proposed to go. I've just got 2 pictures of a surf life saving club, not where the pad mount that was in context and there was the big issue was actually going to go. And it's just interesting, there's another petition, another committee where we've got a similar problem of a lack of context of what actually brought the petition on. So if officers could take that on board in the future, it would be helpful.
Yeah, I think it's a really good point. I actually think it would be a good practice for us as a council when we respond to a petition to just include the front page of the petition as an attachment every time we do it. Whilst there's a statement in the discussion and the purpose of the report, sometimes just having that front page in the words of the petitioner actually adds some value. So whilst it's probably not appropriate for us to change the policy in relation to how we do it, maybe that can just be taken as guidance that if we're responding to a petition report, we just include that front page of the petition. We don't need to identify anyone, but just include that as an attachment would be helpful. That gives some context. Councillor Hummer, you're not on this committee, but does anyone else have any questions? Councillor Martin?
Thank you, Chair. Just a question. I understand there's no need for it anymore, so it sort of resolves the petition, but just noting that in the future there might be a need. If officers, through you, Chair, could sort of describe where would it go, or has there been any information around what that might look like?
Great. Happy to maybe...
Hi, so through the chair, there has been a number of options that have been investigated to have a look at this Energex transformer positioning. So from a Surf Life Saving Club point of view, if they do need upgraded power at a future date, it can actually go inside their leased area if they need it just for their purpose. From a local community point of view, it is up to Energex to have a look at those locations, and they have already had a look at a few, but at this point in time, again, it's not actually needed. So when they do go through that process, they'll be in heavy conversation with us, and Property Services has landowners' consent to be able to sign off on that. So we would be consulted during that process as well.
That's great. Councillor Martin, is that happy with that answer? No, keep going.
Follow on from that. Thank you, Chair. So I understand probably a location hasn't been determined, but I'm just interested in, obviously, maybe Councillor O'Neill could respond in. There's obviously a community have said where they don't want it, so I'm interested, has that sort of been ruled out or in terms of what sort of struck the petition?
Yep, if you guys are okay, I'll just maybe ask Councillor O'Neill her views.
Yep. Well, to my mind, and I think Jodie probably will attest to this, probably Wallace Nickel Park, which you will see tonight, Councillor Gates, because you'll be there, tucked underneath the hill.
Sorry,
is probably...
Councillor O'Neill, what's happening there tonight?
A lot's happening there tonight.
Is there something special
launch. So
the launch of Swell?
The launch of Swell.
Wow.
But I think there is room in that park for a pad mount there, and that's really was, I think, most of the officers' preferred position, and certainly mine. It would have been, not problematic to anybody there. And who knows why we will need it in the future. I think Energex was reluctant to put it there because of the cabling, because the actual Nippers Club is further south, and I think they were looking at the expense of running cabling and things like that. So, but that may not be the case, future on.
So to be fair to say that any councillor interested in this should go to the launch of Swell tonight at Wallace Nickel Park.
Check it out. Yeah,
and have a good look at where the transformer might want to go.
There's a beautiful beach just across the road, guys.
It's the 22nd Swell.
The 22nd Swell. Gosh. So open invitation. There you go, councillors. Avail yourself of the opportunity. With any other questions? No? Would anyone like to move the item? Councillor Hamel and Councillor O'Neill are not on the committee, but Councillor Martin, are you happy to move the item?
Happy to move, Chair.
Councillor Gates, a pleasure to have you with us as the acting mayor. Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Gates. All those in favour? That motion is carried. Let's not talk about that right now, Councillor Hamill.
We've already got a
Hold up,
heritage
hold up.
listed tree in Tugun, Councillor Hamill, the fig tree in Taluna Street. So come on down. No, it isn't.
All right, let's just have that conversation on another day. It's great. We're going to move on to item 6.2, which is another response to a petition relating to the Lake or Foreshore Park with paddle sports. I'm actually interested in a kind of maybe a brief. Is there a presentation or some basic information? Nothing like that. Is there a way we could bring up the map? Is there a way we could bring up the map from the agenda? Is that doable? So it's page 17 of the agenda. While that's happening, Councillor Doran, did you, obviously this is a matter that relates to your area, did you want to say a few words about the response to the petition and your key stakeholders in your community?
Thank you, Chair. I will take the opportunity to speak, but as you can hear, I won't be speaking for very long. I think the response to the petition I welcome. I welcome the opportunity to do a wider body of work around a water plan for our community, especially such a significant body of water through my community in Lake Orr. There is a section of land that's been identified by the petition that has the benefit of being accessible by Bermuda Street, but also accessible to the water, which is rare, council owned, and has the potential to be subject to a number of conditions, a good future community-based water access point. And I look forward to seeing the results of the water plan, and welcome the petition from the petitioner, the chief petitioner, and those who signed it. And I think it's going to kick off a strong body of work, for not just for my division, but also for the city.
Great. Awesome. So I have some questions just about the area involved, if you're okay to field a few questions on it. So the area that is a council park, this is the eastern. The picture we're looking at on the screen is the eastern end of Lake Orr. Am I reading correct? Yeah, this is the eastern. And then the road that is traversing the top to the bottom of the picture is Bermuda Street, and it's just south of the Varsity Lakes Tavern and kind of practically opposite the Transport and Main Roads. Am I right? I've got my bearings right? And in the report, it talks about a construction kind of depot or a place where we store materials and equipment in order to undertake works in Lake Orr at different times. And I'll describe the area we do that as the kind of the boot of the L. Am I reading that correctly?
Yes. Yep.
So the top of the boot, the area that is practically parallel to Bermuda Street, is that area used for anything at all?
So as in within the boot, like property, or that block of land above it?
Not so this area here is the area I understand where we're storing materials and equipment and stuff, machines that need to do work in Lake Orr, and the area to the north of my pen is less used for that. I don't. That's my understanding. Is that a correct understanding?
So at the moment, it is being used as a construction compound, and it's also that northern area there is used as a roadway. The block of land to the north is under heavy construction at the moment for a commercial development. So that's out of scope from a council land point of view. In speaking to lakes and waterways, they do heavily use that park, even when it's not going to be used as a construction compound, as more of your main entry point to service Lake Orr. So your operational vehicles, your maintenance vehicles, and your boats to be able to just maintain Lake Orr and all of the surrounding areas around it.
Yeah, so I suppose the question I'm asking is that it seemed when you drive past it and you have a look that all of the equipment that we have is in the boot of the L and not in the whatever the top of the boot's called. What's the boot that goes up your calf?
Yep. Ankle bit.
The ankle bit above the ankle of the boot. Like observing from the street, the area above the ankle is vacant. There's nothing there. When we did the report, did we look at that area to locate and so the issue that has come about is an issue of congestion at a place to the west of here, which is the sports house. It has lots of water sports going on, and I think I'm just trying to work out whether we got which area we investigated to reduce that congestion?
So it was that whole property that we had a look at, but when we had a look at the bigger picture and knowing the number of water sports facilities we do have within the city, we thought it's a perfect time to be able to take a step back and have a little bit more broad look at the whole of the city and every water sports across the city as well, because we know Varsity Sports House is at capacity, Damien Leedy Memorial Park at capacity from all water sports. We're struggling. We have so much water within the city, but unfortunately we just don't have sufficient storage or entry points to be able to access those water facilities.
Yeah. Is there a point of access in that boot?
There could be, and we're going to include it within the scope of works as well within the plan. So if we deem this in the future as a suitable water sports facility, we can always include it within the scope of works.
Yeah, and the report doesn't really capture any kind of immediate congestion relieving activity. It's more of a, okay, we're going to put up with that congestion for a bit longer until this broader body of work is done.
Yeah.
Is that tenable? Is the congestion such that people are actually going to be bashing into each other, or there's going to be some sort of safety issue by not relieving congestion? Or
we have heard talks about that it is busy and it is at capacity, but this is the first time that it's actually been brought forward to this point within a petition with some signatures against it. But I've received emails from Rowing Queensland, Dragon Boat Queensland, Paddle. We have AIS Paddle Australia as well. So dragon boating, Currumbin Creek. We've had a number of requests to access the water there, even Scouts being able to access the water. So we have so many user groups across the city who have exactly the same. They just haven't taken it to this point of lodging a petition to bring it forward.
Okay. Councillor Wilkinson, you have a question first, and then Councillor Gates. Or you happy to Councillor Gates, please?
Don't have to go behind me. Thank you, Chair. I just wondered through you, will the water sports plan include looking at fishing clubs and their access and facilities? I would be hopeful that it could. I know that we have issues in the north about access and facilities for fishing clubs, so that would be helpful, please.
Yep, through the Chair, yes, we can include them.
Thank you.
Councillor Wilkinson.
Thank you, Chair, and through you. Look, firstly, I welcome the forthcoming water sports report. I think it will be great for the city once we actually look at it further. In relation, it notes the community facilities review, but I just wanted to ask the question if we're taking on board the feedback from things like our own coastal lifestyle strategy that we conducted earlier this year, which looked obviously at a number of different water bodies and the future considerations for the city. But also, I would imagine that the Gold Coast Waterways Authority probably has some level of play in amongst this space as well. And I'm aware that they also conducted some surveys or in community consultation earlier this year, and whether the feedback from, I guess, that community consultation will also be factored into our future consideration for this particular water sports plan.
So through the Chair, yes, they will be included as a stakeholder. Also SEQ Water, obviously they control Hinds Dam. Gold Coast Waterways control most of our major waterways within the city as well, so that would definitely be included as a stakeholder.
Great. Councillor Doran.
Thank you, Chair. One of the recommendations is that the water sports plan for the city is considered after the community services and facilities review is completed. Is there scope to commence this body of work so it can run concurrently with the back end of the community services and facilities review?
Through the Chair, we don't actually have budget to do it for this financial year, so it'll be part of the budget build for next financial year to put it into that piece of work.
So, can I ask a question to follow up on that? So, Lucy, there is congestion such that a petition has been provided to us by users of the area, and the conclusion of the report effectively indicates we should do nothing until a water sports review is undertaken. The water sports review isn't anticipated to be undertaken until at least July next year. How are we going to manage that congestion? Is the safety and congestion issue? Look, effectively what I'm trying to say is that we're going to wait between now and July before we even start the report. I expect the report will take a further 6 months or thereabouts maybe to undertake there. So we're talking 15 months before we can even consider solving some of these congestion issues. Is there any issues that we need to worry about in relation to congestion at that area that should compel us maybe to think about a temporary location or relocation of one of those groups into that section of the land? So it's a question to the officers. Is there anything preventing us from discussing that today?
Not at this stage. It hasn't been brought forward, and we compare it to other sports within the city as well who are continually to grow, and we know there's congestion within sports fields. We know we need sports field lighting. The female facilities body of work needs to be done as well. So unfortunately, this is all sport across the city. The way that we would like to manage it is to actually have a plan in place before we potentially rush into reacting to potentially one group when we know that there is a number of groups across the city who could potentially be in that same situation. So at the moment, we just don't have the data to be able to justify that.
I think, thank you, Chair. I think it's also right, isn't it, that the sport house in Varsity Lakes, which is what the Chair is referring to, is actually included in the community services review. So there will be some information coming out of that review that will speak to its capacity and as it stands now, and also if there's any safety concerns currently at the centre.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay.
Councillor Button.
Just interested if we're not starting this body of work until next financial year. Is there any? I understand we don't have budget allocated this year, but are there any efficiencies with doing it attached to this body of work? Would it be replicating more work next financial year and therefore costing more? I'm just wondering if we bring it forward if there's efficiencies.
I'm going to try to clarify the question a bit better. Maybe if I can. So it sounds like the community services and facilities review is being undertaken. That includes Sports House. You're asking whether, when you use the word efficiency, what do you mean?
I mean, if we're going to undertake a water sports plan for the city, which kind of leans into the community facilities, I imagine there's overlap with the community facilities review.
Some, yes.
Some. What I'm wondering are there, because I understand there's some budget limitations to doing that now, and maybe there's other limitations, but I'm just wondering if there's efficiencies by adding it to the scope of the community services and facilities review now. Are we going to pay more in the long run, essentially?
I think the answer to that question is yes, Jodie, but why don't you clarify?
Through the Chair, it's unlikely to cost more to do it later. It's the stage we're at with the Community Service and Facilities Review. We're sort of past the point of adding more scope, and it would be more costly to backtrack now to include more scope. And the timeframes we're on with that, so we're looking to try and complete large chunks of that this side of Christmas. So it's actually more efficient for us to park this bit of scope and to go back and look at the city quite separately. That would actually be a better outcome overall for the city and for water sports than to try and inject it now, which is we're about halfway through the work.
And probably better for the community organisations that undertake water sports. They'll get a more holistic and strategic look at their work if we don't combine that together. I think what I would have liked to just get real clarity on is there anything preventing council from resolving a temporary relocation of sheds that hold canoes or, things that go in the water, non-motorised things that go in the water, to the area above the ankle in the boot at no cost to council, at the cost of the groups. So is there anything preventing them from relocating a temporary shed to that location to house their boats, put a lock on the thing, and then get access to the water?
There's nothing stopping us from investigating that, so we can have a look into that so we can liaise with them to see if that's suitable.
Yeah. Is there access to the water? There must be access to the water already because we're accessing the water ourselves.
There is an informal boat ramp from a maintenance accessibility. It's not to Australian standards, but there is an informal boat ramp there.
Right. And how often is that informal boat ramp used for our purposes? So how often are we accessing that?
At the moment, I'm not too sure. I know that Gold Coast, that our Lakes and Waterways section, we're heavily using it at the moment to build a boardwalk around Lake Orr. So at the moment, it is being used daily as a construction compound. So immediate, there may not be able to be access, but I can always have a chat to those guys and see what that time frame looks like, and also the immediate need with the Gold Coast Masters Rowing Club as well.
Okay. Councillor Hamill.
Chair, just to clarify for you to Jody, you made the point that it's not built to Australian standards. So would my read on that be that would be an absolute no to us allowing any access beyond contractors and whatnot that we give approval to? Like, we're not interested in having any public use of this ramp at this stage.
Through the chair, it wouldn't be allowed to have general public use, but we do have a number of facilities across the city where if it's just one club, then they can get away with actually using that as their main entry point. It's more of just opening it up to the general public. It wouldn't be allowed.
Yeah, and I don't think that's what I'm proposing. I'm proposing some sort of licence agreement that waives council's liability and transfers that risk to the relevant community organisation in order for them to access and reduce the congestion. So my next question is actually to Councillor Doran. How important is this? This is in your division. How important is this congestion to you? Is it something that's coming up every day? Help us understand that and whether some immediate or more immediate temporary action is warranted in the context of an otherwise 15-month plus delay to doing anything.
I think, thank you, Chair, for the opportunity to speak to that. I would prefer that the community got something good rather than something quick.
Yes.
And I think that this particular area has a lot of potential, not just for my area, but for the community as well, given that there is a limited amount of space that has access to a road and also access to water. Being used as a temporary facility, my observation from this particular site is it will have some limitations on parking as well. So we could put a shed there, but you're going to have a commingling of construction and workers as well as boaties and kids. And there's also quite a busy road there, and the parking at this stage would have to be on the road or off-road, but not off the site. So that will present some other problems at the moment, and there is a need for more space at the sport house, and that's anecdotal from talking to tenants. We do need more space. I would like something faster, but I prefer something better, and I wouldn't want to transfer risk onto a site that is adjacent to water back onto the city if it's not a proper facility, as much as I'd prefer something quicker. And I think it's probably better to go slow and deliberate and get a wider city plan.
Great.
That affects everyone.
I think that's a good response. So with that in mind, is there any other questions? No? I'm going to propose that we adjust number 2 in the recommendation such that it has a 2A. So under 2, just 2A, yep. And say that the water sports plan includes in its scope the fishing sports community. Is that includes the fishing sports community? I don't think the water sports reference material in the actual report actually talks anything about fishing, so I think it actually makes it very clear that we're going to include fishing sports. So just a punctuation thing. Councillor Gates has for many years now been very, very good when it comes to punctuation. It's been countless examples where I've learnt new things about punctuation as a result of... No, not true. Councillor Doran.
Chair, would you also consider changing the word considered under point 2 to a water sports plan for the city is prepared?
Yes.
Thank you.
Councillor Doran, are you comfortable moving that in its current form? Yeah, that's all right. I'm happy to move it and you second it. So I'll move it and Councillor Doran will second it. Yeah, okay, cool. Let's do that then. Again, assistance with punctuation and grammar and sentence construction is just so valued. Maybe you don't need the water sports, but what is better? And it includes, so take out the words that water sports plan. And instead of and, just put, what was it? and includes in its scope the fishing sports community. Are you comfortable with that grammatically, and the punctuation is okay? Hey, look, it's good. It's very, no, I appreciate your guidance. It's helpful. So I've moved it, and Councillor Doran has seconded that motion. There's no doubt, not just with the petition, that there's some congestion issues. Water sports is immensely popular in the Lake Gore area and in other places across the city, no doubt. There are other water bodies that we use, and there's also water bodies in our city that are practically vacant. And I say that in the context of Hinns Dam. Hinns Dam is a beautiful water body. Dams all across the state are used for non-motorised water sport, and the fact that Hinns Dam is not currently being used for anything other than, I think, the Gold Coast Fishing Club seems like it might be an underutilised asset. Even though it's not a council asset, something we need to work with SEQ Water on, it makes perfect sense that our water sports plan has regard not just for assets that council has land adjacent, but also places like Hinns Dam that could potentially relieve quite a lot of congestion in some of our other places. And in particular, I would say that organisations like the Gold Coast Masters Rowing are much more interested in a bit of open space and in a place like Hinns Dam than they would be necessarily in Lake Gore, where they have to compete. So there's such a contestable bit of space there. So I think this report is important. I commend Councillor Doran's commentary in that he would prefer it done well rather than quickly, but also would encourage you to, if there are quick wins that you might be able to get in relation to helping some of those community groups, I'd encourage you to try to take that action. If that means, a temporary shed in a place that can be safe and licensed appropriately, then let's try to take that action outside the scope of this resolution today. Did anyone want to speak against the motion today? All right. All those in favour? That motion is carried. Councillor Castro, it's been so good to have you. We persevered without you for a time.
I'll explain to you later.
Of course, but it's wonderful to have you with us. Thank God you're here.
Someone hold my coat back to the side.
We are going to move in, and I know that Councillor Castro has a particular interest in the biosecurity plan, and it's great that you're just in time. It was actually a start item, but my understanding is is there a short presentation, or is there something you can tell us about? No presentation? So did anyone have any questions of the biosecurity plan? It was the one that no one actually asked me about. So without there being any questions, we might just... All right, there is 2 questions. All right, great. So grab a seat, guys. We've got Hadley and Ian. Thank you for joining us. And welcome back, Alex. You didn't want to speak to this one, did you? Councillor O'Neill and then Councillor Mutton.
Thanks, Chair. Just interesting about the fire ants, that they're not considered, it's not, under the Act. But when I've been to presentations by the eradication team, they state that people have to let the eradication team onto their properties because it is an offence against the Biosecurity Act. So I'm sort of a little bit confused, because there is a lot of talk in my division at the moment too about people, the eradication team doing the helicopter, aerial spraying, going onto people's property, and also a lot of talk about whether this affects domestic animals, and quite a few vets have got involved in that talk as well. So I'm just really concerned. Really, I'm talking about whether they do have the right to refuse the eradication team to come onto the properties.
So let's just deal with that separately. Yeah. It seems like it's a bit external to the Gold Coast biosecurity plan, but let's deal with it as transparently as we can.
Through the Chair, thanks for the question. So it is really clear. They do have a legal obligation to let the national program onto their property. However, what the national program have said is that they are willing to work with property owners on how they might achieve that treatment.
Did you want to follow up that question?
I was just, I sort of understand that, but I just think is there any intentions for fire ants to be considered invasive? Do you know?
Through the chair, and what, sorry?
Are fire ants considered to be invasive? Are they going to be considered invasive? Because according to the report, they're actually not.
They're not captured by the biosecurity plan because they're captured under federal.
That's what I'm saying. Is there an intention to do that at some? Are you aware of that?
Through the chair, not that I'm aware of. However, it is a species that is led by, like, the eradication effort is led by under the Act. They are not technically classified as invasive. However, yeah, it is being led by the national program and by the state. So, with regards to the city.
So just so I'm clear, it's not federally; it's just statewide. State.
So it's covered under the State Act, the State Biosecurity Act 2014.
Councillor Martin.
Thank you. Just a question on the actual draft biosecurity plan. I was just interested in the 10 and 8. What the 10 and 8 meant? It was 10 species. 8.
I had that same one.
Oh,
I had that same question. On page 41, it refers to 10 in 8.
Yes, thanks.
And I thought maybe we could clarify that.
I can clarify that. Thanks, through the chair. So the 10 and 8 is, so we plan to eradicate 10 species within 8 years. And the 8 years aligns with 2032, which aligns with a number of things. It aligns with the corporate plan, aligns with the National Fire Ant Eradication Program's plan to eradicate fire ants by 2032, and it also happens to align with the Olympics.
Do you mind if we request that page 41, or what is it, page... Use my glasses, gosh. Page 8 of the report, where the title of the page is 10 in 8, that we just be more like 10 species in 8 years? Is that okay?
Through the chair, that's fine. We can amend that. We can make it more clear.
Yeah. Councillor Gates will be happy with the... Maybe you just get her to check the sentence structure, but she did not paying attention. Sorry, Councillor Martin, go ahead. Yeah,
perhaps a byline that explained that. But wouldn't, also on the math of that, wouldn't that mean we need to start 2024? I've got 2024 to 2032, 8 years, or I thought it's 7 if we start in 2025.
It's 2 years inclusive.
2 years inclusive, gotcha.
So you count them up, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32.
If you include 2025.
8 years inclusive.
Okay, copy.
It's 9 if we include 2024. We'll just start in January. Go ahead, Councillor Martin.
Thank you. And just on page 51, looking at that matrix of invasive species, page 50. I was just interested in that mother of millions. So can species appear in multiple quadrants? Because I noticed there was mother of millions in very high with a very low feasibility of control, but it also appears as medium. I wonder if that was an error or if there's multiple assessments. Page 50, mother of millions.
That is a really good pickup.
Through the chair, that's an error. Thank you for picking that up.
Thank you.
Let it not be said that Councillor Martin ever forgets to read the agenda. Thank you. Councillor Castro.
Thank you. Just through you, Mr. Chairman, just a question of what was that? The red-eared slider turtle. It says the freshwater. Can they survive in brackish as well? They can't. Okay. I just needed to know that. Thank you.
Also, let it never be said that Councillor Castro misses reading his agenda.
I have my reasons for asking. Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I'd really like you to pull your committee into line, please, Mr. Chairman.
I
The disrespect
appreciate your
is
suggestion. At the moment, it's been pretty amusing as a chair watching you guys heckle each other. It's great. So thank you for that question about red-eared slider turtles. Is there any other questions we have about the biosecurity plan? Great. I'm going to move the officer's recommendation. Can I have a seconder? Councillor Martin or Councillor Curtis? I think Councillor Curtis was first. Sorry, Councillor Martin. So I moved it. Councillor Curtis seconded it. The biosecurity plan is obviously a legislative responsibility or obligation that we have, and it gives the public certainty about the work that we're doing to eradicate invasive pests, animals and weeds. Super important work. Thanks to Hadley and the team for getting on with it. All those in favour? That motion is carried. It's the biosecurity plan out of the way. We've got 2 presentations today as part of this committee's commitment to ensuring that our first 6 to 8 months addresses a bunch of broader work that this directorate undertakes. And the first is about climate resilience and sustainability strategy. So I'll just throw to Alex to introduce that.
Thank you, Chair. And while our 2 presenters come out to take their seats, I just wanted to provide a little bit of context around these 2 presentations. Obviously, we have this very beautiful city. It's one of the most biodiverse cities in the world. It is a biodiversity hotspot for Australia. We are also one of the most at-risk cities to climatic changes and natural hazards such as flood, coastal inundation, heat waves, fire, severe wind. And so it makes sense that we have strategic frameworks that can grapple and deal with these challenges and also opportunities. Climate and nature are considered 2 sides of the same coin, and by that we mean that they are interdependent and that we can't have climate without nature and we can't have a healthy nature without healthy climate. And so that's why we're presenting these together. And I just wanted to give you an example of what I mean by that and those interdependencies. During the 2019-2020 bushfires across the east coast of Australia, we lost 10% of koala habitat just in one bushfire event. And so these frameworks that Anna and DJ will be presenting today will provide you with a bit of a story around how we're managing these sorts of risks so that we can protect our climate and our nature for future generations to come. Also, importantly, often you will see items come up for approval, very specific items related to a project here and there, naturally Gold Coast, acquisition programs, even the Advanced Resource Recovery Centre. All of these initiatives are actually sitting underneath these 2 umbrellas of the Climate Resilience Sustainability Strategy and our Natural City Strategy. So we're first going to kick off with Anna Hollingsworth, who is the manager for the Climate Resilience and Sustainability Strategy.
Thank you, Alex, and thank you for the opportunity to come and talk about the Climate Resilience and Sustainability Strategy today. I'll be providing a very high-level overview of some of the background and context associated with the strategy and some of our immediate priorities in the first year of delivery of the strategy. Oops. Thank you. So, as you would be aware, there has been a lot of movement in the climate change and sustainability space globally, nationally, and across the state level. And most notably with the introduction of the Sustainable Development Goals and the Paris Agreement. Under the Paris Agreement, as a signatory, the Australian government now has a legislative target of net zero by 2050. And the state government has also followed suit with also a legislative target of net zero by 2050. In addition to that, both the national and state governments are looking at assessing climate risks and also developing national and state adaptation plans to deal with the impacts associated with climate change.
Just ask a question.
Yeah.
Sorry, I just want to know what we're committed to at this point in time in terms of net zero by when? I mean, I can see you've got local government 2050 there, but as a city, what have we committed to at this point?
Not legislatively committed at this point. No. However, we do have a corporate measure requiring us to reduce emissions, and that target is aligned with state, national and international policy of net zero by 2050.
As a council, we haven't adopted a position as yet.
As a corporate measure, yes, but it's not a legislative requirement at this stage.
There isn't a resolution of council.
No, I'm just trying to find out if the council has an adopted position at this point in time.
12 years, I can't recall us adopting anything either. So that being said, there's a corporate measure, which I just think it would be an operational matter, not a council resolution.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Great, thank you. So I guess...
But it might be a good idea for us to do that, but we'll wait till your presentation gets to the end and we'll work it out after that.
Thank you. No, that's not a problem at all. And I think it just highlights some of the complexities and challenges associated with this policy landscape. It's constantly evolving, and only a few weeks ago the federal government introduced a new bill requiring large businesses under the Corporations Act to disclose their financial risks associated with climate change. So that will come into effect of January 2025, and over the next couple of years we'll see those requirements start to tighten and start to trickle down to medium and smaller sized business. So as a local government, it's important for us to understand this policy landscape and how it's the signals coming from global, national and state government and how that's already influencing our local community and businesses and our role within that. So, but it's not just about aligning to policy, it's also about local government being in a really good position to lead local-led climate action. This chart is taken from a website called Show Your Stripes, put together by a university located in the UK. And it plots real data, real temperature data over from the early 1860s through to 2023. And this is actual data taken from the Gold Coast, showing relative to average temperature changes over that period. And so this demonstrates that although climate change is often considered as a global issue, its impacts are felt locally. And this puts local government in a very strong position to support its community to adapt to the changes and the impacts associated with these increased temperatures, but also help to minimise those temperatures from increasing further. And this has already been reflected in our corporate risk framework as an emerging challenge for the city to deal with. But it's not just about risk, there's also significant opportunity. And an example of this is the Olympic Games in 2032. As a delivery partner, the city has a number of obligations requiring sustainable outcomes for our role in delivering the Games. And this actually gives us a really good opportunity to help leverage and accelerate some of our transition to a sustainable and resilient Gold Coast. And the strategy also will help us to achieve those commitments through the Olympic program. And there's also a great opportunity to work alongside the community in this space. During the development of the strategy, there was a number of community engagement activities undertaken, including a Have Your Say survey. And of the almost 4,000 community members that were surveyed at the time, over 89% acknowledged that human activities were having an impact on the world's climate. That is a really large awareness within the community and a strong interest in this space. So their top 3 concerns within the survey about local impacts of climate change, first and foremost, was around more frequent and severe weather events. Second was also connecting to Alex's point about the importance of our natural city and being a biodiversity hotspot and a city in nature. The community are really concerned about the impacts to biodiversity and what that means for our city. And third, they were also concerned about the impacts to farming and production and also food supply through both chronic and acute impacts associated with climate change. And what they wanted the city to focus on in the strategy was around having resilient and sustainable built environment. They wanted us to help protect the environment, but also work with nature to protect us from the impacts of climate change, and also to have more sustainable waste management systems. So all of that information has gone into the development of the Climate Resilience and Sustainability Strategy, which was endorsed by Council in October 2023. It's a 10-year strategy. It's aligned to the council plan themes of livable places, all about managing our sustainable resources, and also about managing the risks associated with natural hazards, and the One City theme. So I think climate resilience and sustainability touches just about every part of our business and community. So it will really take the entire organisation to work collectively to help us address these challenges and deliver this strategy. We have 3 key focus areas. Resilient Gold Coast is all about ensuring that our built environment, our natural environment, and our community is climate ready and resilient to the impacts of climate change. Lower Carbon Future is all about our role in a sustainable urban planning, supporting local businesses and community to reduce their emissions, and also to become a leader in green industry and innovation and research and development. And net zero city operations is all about the city as an administration and our path to reducing emissions. So shortly after the approval of that strategy, the Climate Resilience and Sustainability team was established, and our immediate priority is to develop a 10-year implementation plan that sets out a blueprint for the city to transition to a more resilient and sustainable city. So although we're in the development phase of this implementation plan at the moment, we've been doing a lot of internal engagement, and we have identified some kind of key focus areas that will roll out in the first few years of that implementation plan. And that is really about understanding our climate risk and starting to undertake some adaptation planning and action, not just for our city as a business, but also for the whole local government area. And we really need to understand and identify ways in which we can support the community and our local business to help reduce their emissions and move towards more sustainable practices, particularly as we know that disclosure and the ESG reporting requirements are starting to trickle down. And under net zero city operations, we need to develop a roadmap, a sensible and achievable roadmap that helps us move towards our target of net zero by 2050. The good news is we're not alone in this. We're not the only local government or organisation dealing with the challenges of climate change. There is a lot of great work out there happening at a regional and national and international level. And we've been very lucky to connect with some of these, the people behind some of this work, through the Coastal Hazard Adaptation Strategy process that preceded this strategy. The team were lucky enough to connect with the City of Miami and understand kind of how they're dealing with some of their coastal hazards. We've been talking to our peers up at the Sunshine Coast about how they're assessing their climate risk associated with the impacts of climate change. And we've been lucky enough to have one of the sustainability leads from the City of Greater Bendigo to come up and participate in one of our workshops and tell us about how they've been using a collaborative approach between business, industry, community, and also government and schools to come up with a net zero roadmap for their region. But it's also important to note that we're already doing a lot in the climate resilience and sustainability space. So if we have a look at Net Zero Council, for example, our largest emission source is our landfills, with almost 49% of our Scope 1 emissions coming from landfills. The ARC project is helping us to address those direct emissions, but it's also helping us to address our Scope 2 emissions by providing a renewable energy source. And this is will provide some foundational enabling conditions and infrastructure to support a local circular economy and the growth of that industry under lower carbon future. And it also helps our systems be more resilient by providing alternative renewable energy and alternative waste management systems. Also under resilience, we have industry-leading disaster emergency and management facilities and functions that do an amazing job helping the community and the city respond and recover from natural hazards and disasters. And then we're also entering our 4th generation of our natural city strategy, which DJ will be sharing shortly, which helps us to protect and support the environment so that it's resilient and can adapt to the changes that are coming. So they're just some examples of the work that we're already doing and how the climate resilience and sustainability strategy will bring all these initiatives together, as Alex said, under one umbrella and help us to have a clear pathway towards transitioning to a climate resilient and sustainability city. Next steps. So as I mentioned, we are busy at the moment developing a 10-year implementation plan which will guide our strategy delivery, but we're doing a lot of engagement internally around that at the moment. We have a couple of touch points coming up with ELT in the coming months, but we are coming to talk to each of you probably around the summer period as we get a bit tighter with that implementation plan and get your feedback and thoughts on that before bringing it back to this committee in March for approval.
Great. Go ahead, Councillor Gates.
Thank you. With the briefings that you're intending on providing, will it also include potential costs associated with implementing the various points of the strategy because I think that's what we've got to be mindful of as well, the cost to the ratepayer of the strategies that we are endorsing to put in place.
Through the chair, thank you for the question. And yes, our intention is to bring some high-level costs associated with implementation of the actions within the strategy, but also understanding some of the material impacts if we're changing systems, processes, what that looks like, and also understanding the costs of not implementing the strategy.
Sure, sure. And that strategy will then come before the council, is that correct?
Through the chair, correct. Yes, we will be bringing it back to this committee. Yep.
Thank you very much.
Great. Does anyone have any other questions? It's great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
It's an important part of work. I'm going to move that the presentation be noted. Can I have a seconder? Councillor Wilkinson, thank you. All those in favour? Fantastic. Our next one is Councillor Hamill's favourite topic, the Natural City Strategy. Come on.
And sorry, you were going to distribute those presentations, weren't you?
They've sent by email last night.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
DJ, let's do this.
Through you, Chair.
Donald. Sorry, Mr. McKenzie.
No, can I be DJ today?
Yes, you can be DJ.
So through you, Chair, councillors, Madam Acting Mayor, and Alex, thank you for inviting me here to present on our Natural City Strategy. I think I know a few of you councillors, but I'm only beginning to meet some of you. I'm been with the organisation now for 8 years, and I'm looking after the environmental planning, natural hazards, as well as our Natural City Strategy. So it's quite a wide, diverse portfolio. I think this might be the end of my presentation. That's it. We're done. We'll be coming back. This is only a very high-level briefing, and we'll be coming back to you with a more in-depth briefing over the next 2 to 3 months. We want to really provide just a high-level briefing today, looking at some key activities. But in the next 2 to 3 months, we'll be coming to you to speak more, give a bit more of an in-depth briefing, and really talk to you about the really important product that we're preparing, the dashboard and the storyboard. So we'll be coming to you to talk about these really important products. So it's been a privilege of mine to be here for the 2 of the strategies. So this is the 4th iteration of the ONC, our Natural City Strategy. We've been doing this for over 25 years. So we've been really at the leading in terms of strategic environmental conservation and planning. And it's been a privilege of mine to be here to deliver on 2 of these strategies. So, and as Anna spoke to during the consultation for the climate strategy, the community really expects and values our environment. They expect us to be protecting it. They value environment. Every strategy that we've presented, the environment has been top of the community's wish list. When we go out with our annual plan, when we go out with our budget, the community come back and say that the environment is so critically important and we should be protecting it. So, why? And I think it's really important. We all know why. We all know how beautiful the Gold Coast and how important the environment is. But it's really important for us to really understand and establish why. So, as you're aware, the Gold Coast is naturally unique. It's one of the most biodiverse cities in Australia. From the World Heritage hinterland to Ramsar wetlands in southern Moreton Bay and everything in between. We are the most biodiverse city in Australia, with over 3,300 plants and 3,000 animals that are native to the Gold Coast region. We are a biodiversity hotspot. And we are biodiverse because we've got an incredible landscape and landforms and diversity of landforms, from mountains to the ocean. with dissecting waterways and creeks and a really dynamic coastal environment. And we're in that sweet spot when it comes to the climate, between temperate and the tropics. So that is why, because of our geography, because of our landforms, we're incredibly environment. And while we're naturally unique, we got this one of the most biodiverse cities in Australia, but we're also one of the fastest growing. So it's this juxtaposition of a growing population and an incredible environment that makes us incredibly and naturally unique. And it's a beautiful, beautiful city. Okay, as an incomer, I'm still, when I go down to that coast, I look at Burleigh and Coolangag, I just go, what an incredible place we live in. So the environment, and I'm obviously biased here, is central to our city's lifestyle, and a key factor on why people move here, live here, want to play and here, visit here, and want to invest here. So Council has understood this. It's 4 iterations of the strategy. And for over 25 years, the Gold Coast has prioritised strategic conservation planning and investment and activities to protect and enhance our environment, whilst we're managing and designing our city to manage growth. So after 4 iterations of the strategy, I think we've got a really good understanding of what the problem is, a really good understanding. And we've got a suite of programs that are fit for purpose, that really deliver and have been delivering. But when we spoke with the councillors as part of the last consultation, we spoke with the community, the councillors were very clear. We need to be telling the why a lot. We need to be really highlighting the values. And we need to be telling the community, informing the community of what we do and what the community does and what our networks do. So this iteration of the strategy is really focused on the how we can get partners, how we can collaborate, how we can communicate, how we can monitor. Because, we've been doing really good and we need to be looking at some of these enabling tools. So that's really about what 2032 is looking to do. We've got a little video. It's not the long one, but it's a minute. I've got a few videos. I hope it works. But I think this really encapsulates the ONC strategy and this beautiful city.
Taking environment that makes our city uniquely Gold Coast. It's the heartbeat to our identity. It's the place we call home.
We are a city in nature. Over the next decade, we're focused on delivering projects that restore our environment, protect our precious wildlife and their habitat, and provide more experiences for people to enjoy nature. We are working towards our target of 51% native vegetation cover, purchasing land to secure strategic habitat and connecting critical nature corridors, designing city growth to protect our natural environment, and understanding and responding to climate impacts for land and water environments. It's up to you, me, and all of our incredible partners to work together to protect and enhance our natural city.
It worked. So this is the ONC 2032, and it's very similar to what Anna presented earlier on. But this is primarily about achieving the naturally unique council plan theme, and there's 35 actions across the strategy themes of explore and discover, protect and enhance, and connect and partner. So I just want to look at this one first. This is a strategy outcome 1, explore and discover. And this is really important. This is about getting people out to enjoy nature, to enjoy the environment, to be educated, to go through Natural EGC, for example, to really understand about what the values of the environment is and what we can do to assist. This is also about volunteering. And another key part there is it's about discovering and building our understanding of the environment. So, we really need to build our monitoring programs to really understand what that looks like. So I'm going to look at Natural GC,
And we've got another video as well. So many of you will be fully attuned with Naturally GC is. It's an amazing program, and many of you have been supporting this program for many, many years. These include workshops, school holiday programs, volunteering, land care, etc., and bush care, but a hugely popular program. I think last year there was 14,500 people who participated in the program, over 300 workshops, of nearly 2,500 volunteer hours. So again, a really incredible program that's delivering. It's a really heavy hitter when it comes to the explore and discover theme. So yeah, I think everyone here.
Did you say 14,500 people?
Yes.
Through the, yeah, wow, that's good, awesome.
14,555.
So 40,000.
14,
14, yeah, cool.
So yeah, so Naturally GC is, obviously been a really important program that many of us have supported here. I'm not part of the Naturally GC program itself, but I've been part of many tree plantings that have been part of that. But again, it's a really critically important program.
Chair, I can contribute. There's been over 20,000 plantings since the December storm.
Yeah,
so
it's huge.
It's been quite incredible, the
awesome
recovery effort. Congratulations to everyone.
Some of these achievements here, I think, in terms of, Madam Acting Mayor, you're correct, that the actual on-ground activities of this program is so important as well. So we got those 43,000 trees planted last year, as well as key signature events. But it's the volunteer aspect of it so critically important. And I think this really sums up our volunteering component and the program really well.
So that's the Office of the Mayor doing some renovations. It's okay. They're not clapping you.
There we go. So this is a reach of Currumbin Creek, and you can see the top image. That was from 2008. Highly denuded riparian area of.
Isn't that a transformation?
Sorry,
that's a transformation, isn't it?
That's hugely transformational, and I think, this really talks to the importance of our volunteers. We cannot achieve a lot of what we do in the city without our volunteers. And supported by Naturally GC, we can just see that now what we have is a Currumbin Creek with, restored, that erosion area repaired, and an incredible corridor produced. So I think it's a really important image.
Great. I mean, that's just unbelievable. It's a massive transformation.
Yeah.
Well done, Councillor O'Neill. I know that you were heavily involved in planting all those trees. Well done out there. Good.
Yeah, just behind the Eco Village.
Nice.
So I guess that's a really good segue, because obviously at its heart of the ONC's on-ground activities, and we really this next one, just protect and enhance. I'll get there. Come on. I'll leave it.
It's not liking you.
Thank you. So protect and enhance is obviously the engine room of the delivery of the ONC strategy. And as we can see on the left-hand side there's many activities, many volunteer groups who are critical and support the delivery of the strategy. But this protect and enhance also includes key things such as strategic land use planning, offset natural area restoration, priority species conservation, urban greening initiatives, as well as the natural area acquisition program. And it's this program that I want to talk to now. And again, we've got another video, which is the third one. So this program has been significant so this is a visualization that we have that's going to be part of the storyboard and map and dashboard when we come and speak to you. It is a visualization that talks to the 6 acquisitions that we've acquired through the Natural Area Acquisition Program since 2021. And it's really important, this visualization, because it highlights, where you can see the importance of these acquisitions and what they do in terms of pinch points and connecting natural areas. So it's these types of tools and visualizations that we want to come and speak to you, because we can tell a really important story here when we're talking about the Natural Area Acquisition Program. and how it complements other activities that the city and the community are doing. So that one's the last one in Mosland, which was just purchased in July. And it's 5 hectare property. Thank you, that was great. 5 hectare property that was a part acquisition. So we're using the policy where we're buying the important part of the property, but we're excising the building and the house, so we can actually purchase it cheaper. I'm just having trouble. And on next, thank you. So the programme supports the acquisition of strategic land to connect natural areas, protect priority species habitat, and support effective land management. And to date, we have, like I said, we've acquired 6 properties covering 166 hectares. But I think this programme doesn't act alone. It's not in isolation. And the importance is that these programmes work in tandem and are complemented by other activities. On the next slide, hopefully, we can demonstrate this. This is in the Burley to Springbrook Wildlife Corridor. And you can see here the dark green. There's been a lot of conservation estate over many years that have been contributing to building this corridor. But as we focus in on Wonga Park, we see there that a strategic land acquisition, and that was the first one that we purchased in 2021. But it's been complemented by offset restoration and community planting. It's been supported by a redesign of that park in Wonga Park to ensure that we've got a larger fauna connectivity. And the community have got really great community assets in there from a redesigned park. And that fauna underpass, again, just to reiterate, that's been 10 to 15 years in consultation with the state government to ensure that we've got that crossing and that path so that we can have a viable and functional west to east corridor connection through there. So again, just a good example of the strategy working joined up, where we're working using all the tools of our conservation toolkit to ensure that we get a decent outcome there. Thank you. So the last one is our strategic outcome 3, connect and partner. And again, to really reiterate, we cannot do this alone, and we have to work with all our partners across all our sectors to ensure that we're delivering on the strategy. And so we've got great partnerships. We need to enhance them, and we need to build new ones. And so that is really the focus of the strategy over the next 10 years, is to really build those partnerships. Thank you. So I just wanted to focus on this one as well. And again, some of you will be aware of this program, but it is a really public-facing program that we're doing here. The majority of our conservation estate across the city is in private land holdings. So providing a program where we can support landholders to get education, to get capacity, to build capacity, to manage their own property has been really fundamentally important. So we've, through programs such as Land for Wildlife and Bushland Health Checks, we've got over 5,573 hectares of land that's managed, protected by landholders managing their own land. So we do deliver workshops, we provide capacity, but it's a really cost-effective way of getting some incredible environment managed on the Gold Coast. And again, this is complemented by our existing programs as well. So moving forward, evidence-based information is so vital. It's been at the heart of our strategies. We need to ensure that we're gathering information so that we can better inform our policies and programs moving forward. As we were told and informed through the consultation, we need a monitoring and reporting framework that really highlights and communicates appropriately to the community what we're doing and how we're going. And I guess aligned with the monitoring and reporting that we're seeing with the climate and across all of EHR as well. So really important that we establish these frameworks. Diversifying investment. We've done really well looking at offsets and looking at grants from the state and federal government, but we need to be looking at diversifying investment opportunities and leveraging that. Building partnerships. We can't do this alone. And continue to deliver. Because if we continue to deliver, as we're doing successfully, we can support the outcomes of the ONC and support the Gold Coast way of life and the incredible lifestyle. So, yeah, just a quick insight.
look forward to seeing you in the next couple of months to provide that full briefing. Thank you.
That's great. Does anyone have any questions? Councillor Doran.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for the presentation. On the last slide, you just referenced diversifying investment. One of the priorities is about acquiring natural land. Can you give us some examples about how you would diversify away from that?
So yeah, absolutely. So we're seeing, there's programs and models emerging in terms of nature repair markets. So we're really looking at how we can build off the markets that have been driven from climate and now going to be replicated in the environment. So looking at nature repair markets as potentially a mechanism of how we can diversify that investment stream.
Do you want to further clarify your question? Because it sounds like you gave me a complex answer. Yeah, you went.
I'm happy to add to that, and Councillor Doran. So I think the traditional model of conservation is that publicly owned conservation areas and protect them in perpetuity, and they're owned by the public. What we're seeing now is...
Sorry, when you mean owned by the public, you mean the government buys them and the government as assets?
That's right, and then they're public assets.
Yes.
Yeah. And that's certainly one lever that should always remain as one method. But what we're seeing now is a shift in markets that private investment is now flowing into the protection of the natural environment, and that's through things like, for example, carbon sequestration, so carbon credits, carbon farming, but also the nature repair market that will be coming online very soon, that will enable private landholders and private investors to invest in those sorts of outcomes that they can then get a return on those credits, if you like. So there's a big shift now with what Anna was talking about before, international and national policies really setting direction and requiring the private sector to disclose climate risk and how they're managing that, to also disclose how they're managing nature risk as well and their impacts on the natural environment. And what this is doing is enabling the market to create incentives, if you like, market-based incentives for investment into the protection of climate and nature. It's certainly my view that we do have such considerable natural assets that we can definitely mobilise that private investment, and that's what we mean by diversifying investment, so that we're not the only ones investing in these outcomes for our city, but that there might be other parties that might want to come and work with us and partner with us to get the same kind of outcomes. It could also look like public-private partnerships, such as through nature-based tourism. And other mechanisms and initiatives that might provide those outcomes, but also provide social and economic outcomes as well. So what we're doing through our strategy is looking at building up a contemporary approach to getting these outcomes, but doing that in a much more aligned way with other priorities of the city, but also with the private sector as well and with landholders.
Could I ask a question about, just before you move on, you said the nature repair market, which will soon be coming online. What does that mean? The Commonwealth has the nature repair bill that has already gone through government.
Yes.
And
what that will mean is that there's they'll be offering credits, if you like. So it could look like for every hectare of habitat protected, so it's koala habitat, it could be worth a certain amount of money on the market.
Okay.
So then organisations might like to say, well, we have we're investing in the protection of koalas, so we're going to go and buy these credits from this landholder who has decided to protect those areas for koala habitat, and that way that landholder gets paid to look after that habitat, but the private sector's kind of coming in and investing in that. And then the private sector can say, well, we're protecting koalas through our investment. So it's just how it's a market mechanism, environmental market mechanism.
And there's a federal bill that has addressing that.
That's right.
I'm interested in that separately, if you mind us chatting about it later. Councillor Doran, sorry, I interrupted your line of questioning, but
it was just clarifying, so that's leveraging, aside from that particular case that the Chair was just talking about, so it's leveraging our investment with the private sector's investment where their interests align with ours.
Yes.
To gain a larger footprint and protect our wildlife.
Yep.
How do you therefore protect the core goal of ensuring that the wildlife and the land is secure for the future if there's a private investment in there, because their model could change based on court decisions?
Yeah, and look, I think and this is why we need to have multiple levers. So, the ultimate conservation goal is typically regarded as in perpetuity, area that's sort of protected forever. And that's where public assets come into play, national parks, those sorts of arrangements. But when we're looking at private landholders, we can't buy everything. We need to enable growth, and we need to work with landholders to help protect the environment without having to leave their land. And that's where these other levers like markets come in. And so that might not look like in perpetuity outcome, but it might be for, say, 25 years. And then maybe other policy mechanisms might be around then that we can look at leveraging at that time. So it's like a toolkit. Yeah.
Cool. Any other questions? I just want to move that the presentation be noted. Councillor Curtis, Councillor Wilkinson, seconded. All those in favour? That motion is carried. Thank you. Great having you with us today. I am going to move an apology for Councillor Marshall, who has advised me that he was at the Disabled Sport and Recreation Activity had to do an official opening for related to his to disability and a major event that was going on. So if you're okay, I'll move that an apology for Councillor Marshall be noted. Councillor Castro will second that. All those in favour? Thank you. I think that'll have to form part of general business because we haven't got to the apologies bit, but I think I can do it at any time. Did anyone have any other general business they wanted to deal with? I'll declare the meeting closed at 10:24. Thanks, everyone. Alex, thank you.